Even in the early 20th century, the Tibetan vocabulary did not include the word independence, which is a fact not known to many people. But what was the origin of the issue of so-called Tibet independence? "100 years ago, the invasion of colonialism and capitalism nearly swept the whole world. Great Britain was not content with the snatch of India. Colonists, however, cast their eyes upon the Himalayas and targeted China's Tibet. In order to open the Tibetan local authorities' door close to the UK, a British expedition troop set off in 1904 climbed over Natula Himalayan Pass and began its invasion into Tibet. In Tuna, located in the south of Jiangxi, the invaders encountered Tibetan people and Chinese officials, peacefully urging them to stop. But it turned out to be a slaughter of the host by advanced weapons. Indignant Tibetan people were determined to resist invaders. They had a fierce battle against invaders by means of the castle on the Jiangxi Town. In the face of the strong enemies, more than 1,000 Tibetan soldiers and people used their guns and resisted bravely for over a month till they did in the end. However, British imperialism failed to reach its goal to control Tibet completely by means of direct military invasion. They began to change their way to seek an agent in Tibet. In 1913, the UK forced Chinese government to participate in a Simla conference held in India. Then UK Representative and Minister of Foreign Affairs of India, McMahon, adopted fraudulent means and forged the so-called Simla Treaty unilaterally. Chen Yifan, Chinese government representative, refused to sign the treaty and declared that Chinese government would not admit it at all. The Chinese government notified its stance to British government, and the conference ended as a failure. Despite the failure of the British plot, their representatives in Tibet never stopped their attempts to separate Tibet from China. Here Richardson plotted a coup and overthrew the Janslav Ration Buddha, who had close relations with the central government. Ever since then, Taktra Ngwan Samgrab, who clung to power and authority, had a firm control of Tibetan political and religious power backed up by imperialism. Although the shadow of US and UK forces loomed over Tibet, Anglophile Taktra Ngwan Samgrab could not publicly deny China's sovereignty over Tibet. In 1949, after the founding of the People's Republic of China, the local Tibetan government was urged to conduct peaceful negotiations. The Dalai Lama blew hot and cold towards this. He went to Yadong to observe the attitudes of Western countries. The UK, however, heavily hurt by the World War II, had no power to interfere with remote local political affairs, but expressed its support for Tibet independence orally. The US began to take anti-communism as its primary task, and the so-called Tibet issue was used as its excuse and means. On December 30th, 1950, the US State Department submitted a memorandum to the British ambassador in the US, explicitly showing Truman administration's policy change towards Tibet's status. The memorandum said the US remembers China's sovereignty over Tibet, and the US government has never questioned the claim. But it added, the US further holds that if developed properly, it can consider admitting Tibet as an independent country. In 1951, Tibet Peace Agreement was signed, and the status of Tibet was specified and stabilized, which made Truman administration worried much, as it was anxious to make troubles in the People's Republic of China. Between the late March and August 1951, Henderson, the US ambassador to India, took 3 letters and more messages to Dalai Lama, persuading him to deny the 17th Agreement and go into exile overseas and organize a resistance movement, and stating that the US government would like to provide financial support and even military assistance. In order to prevent the letters from being obtained by others and causing inconvenience to the US, the letters indicated no dates, addresses or signatures, while a British correspondent confirmed that he had witnessed US military materials enter into Tibet. In 1954, CIA began to recruit secret agents from among the Tibetan people, have them trained in Taiwan, and then send them back to Tibet to instigate terrorism. The specific organizer of these secret agents were 2 brothers of Dalai Lama, that is, Tubten Jigme Norbu and Jalu Tongdub. Tubten Jigme Norbu himself received such training. Later, the US had trained 170 Khampa partisans in the state of Colorado. The US provided the secret agents going back to Tibet with weapons through boundary smuggling or air delivery, with a view to letting them get started at once. Soon, these agents began to display their role in Tibet. They not only attacked the authorities and troops in Tibet dispatched by the central government, but also established a rebellious organization, Chuxi Gandrug, and rebellious guards, and established a guerrilla base in the Shannan prefecture. In March 1959, an armed rebellion happened in Tibet, and the Dalai Lama escaped. With the support from CIA, the Dalai Lama and his followers organized Tibetan exile government. However, it has never got formal acknowledgement from any country.